My therapist once told me that child abuse can leave you with dangerous habits. Things you got used to doing to survive and think are normal can actually be harmful or even self-destructive. I never thought his warning would apply to me until last week, when one of my habits landed me in the hospital. My mother was a narcissist and all around awful. She demanded absolute control over me and my sister Amy. If she hit one of us, we had to agree that we deserved it. If she left for days, we had to cover for her with the neighbors. If she spent an hour screaming at me over nothing, I had to take it without looking hurt or angry. If I did, things got worse. Not just for me. My name's Alan. Amy's my twin, and for as long as I can remember, we've been each other's lifeline. Mom hated it. We weren't supposed to care about anyone but her, so she always tried to get us to turn on each other. She called her favorite method the punishment game. If I did anything she saw as wrong, she'd punish Amy. If Amy did anything, she would punish me. She probably thought we would start to hate each other for messing up and getting each other hurt. Instead, we tried even harder to keep from setting her off to protect each other. When I was 12, I slipped up badly. I lost my temper and yelled back at Mom. So she dragged Amy down into the basement and kept her there for over an hour. I'll always remember how Amy came back bleeding. She limped for a week afterwards. After that, I stopped showing anger. I would bite my tongue and keep quiet without so much as a glare, no matter how terrible my mother was being. I bit my tongue so my sister wouldn't suffer. Sometimes I bit it so hard that I bled, but better me than her. I didn't know then that this habit would get me into a lot more trouble later. The day after our 18th birthday, we packed up while Mom was sleeping and left to stay with friends. When she called me on my cell phone, I told her that she was a monster and that she would never see us again. It felt amazing to hang up on her. She didn't even last 6 months after that. I found out later that she started drinking heavily after we left and road raging. Bad combination. It caught up with her fast. We didn't even go to her funeral. My sister and I shared a tiny studio for 3 years while we got our lives together. Therapy, junior college, jobs, learning to be normal. Every day, life got a little better. I ended up joining the Coast Guard. I met my wife a few months after I started. We moved in together within a year and were married 6 months later. I was really happy for the first time in my life. But even good people aren't perfect. Sometimes she did things that upset me. Sometimes I upset her and she yelled at me. Our girls could be brats. It was just normal family bickering, like we still deal with sometimes. I bit my tongue. Every time. I still wouldn't let myself get openly angry. I started getting stomach aches. My doctor put me on pills. They didn't help. I started having trouble sleeping. More pills. Same thing. Lack of sleep made me irritable. Arguments happened more often. They were still mostly one-sided. Better to have a bleeding tongue than to make my loved ones cry. Last week, I forgot to pick up my wife's migraine medicine. She yelled. I bit my tongue. I started choking. Blood overflowed my mouth. My wife went from yelling at me to screaming into her phone for an ambulance. Turns out, I bit the tip of my tongue clean off. I had emergency surgery that night. They never found the missing part of my tongue. Best guess is I accidentally swallowed it. I don't like thinking about that. I'll be on a feeding tube for weeks, and I'll need speech therapy. My psychotherapist and I communicate by text for now. I have to check in daily. My wife cried when I explained everything. She begged me to just let my feelings out from then on, even the angry ones. She told me that she'd rather be yelled at sometimes than ever see me suffer like that again. Then she told my sister. Man, was Amy pissed. I didn't get defensive when they got upset. I didn't bite my tongue either. I felt sorry and grateful and a little bit healthier. Yelling at someone you love when they upset you is normal after all. Biting your tongue instead isn't.